Hi, welcome to the third episode of Recreating My 7-Year-Old World. In the last episode, we built the interior of my castle, and in this episode, we'll be working on the stairs and the village. This time I was joined by my friends WolfHog3000, hpwolfgirl and ShadyWolf09. I just want to say, obviously, before we start, a huge thank you to them for helping me out so far. And let's get into it. First, we started by clearing away all the trees to make a big, nice area for us to work with. We used a mixture of basically just doing it with our hands, and also used a few commands, the fill command to be exact, to fill the pond and the river down there, and we filled in any areas that needed filling in, just to make a bit more of a square area for us, as we knew this wall was going to be quite big anyway. We wanted to make it bigger and better than it was last time, as before it was quite just a small oblong shaped with bits coming off of the end of it. It wasn't very flattering, and I didn't want to go back there again as making a small area and then adding onto it. I didn't want to do that again. So we decided to this time make it bigger so we could fit everything in first time without having to add anything onto the sides. We flattened the area by getting rid of any hills and mountains, and then we started on the walls. I originally wanted to see if we could try and make it a bit more circular, because when you're looking at obviously villages in general, it's quite a circular thing and everything's inside it. But the only issue with that is that we were finding, obviously this is Minecraft, everything's really square, so obviously with something so big, it was very difficult, as you'll see in the video, it's very difficult for me to be able to make it quite circular, especially because we needed it quite symmetrical to fit everything in. So it was quite difficult to be able to make a circular area of such a big structure. So in the end we decided against it and just decided to go for a square outer wall, which I didn't end up minding in the end. I thought it'd be a big issue for us, obviously because of being symmetrical and everything, and we needed it quite big. I thought that would be an issue, but it actually turned out to be quite nice in the end and actually quite matched the castle nicely, so I was okay with that in the end. We built the walls nice and high and added some stairs along the edges to act like almost like spikes along the wall. Not really so much spikes, but kind of, I don't really know what they're called. They're like the divots that you see in like town walls and stuff, especially in castles. You see them a lot in castles. But we added those all the way round, and then on the inside we split the areas into 4 on the inside. We did this because we wanted to be able to see exactly where the middle was of each side, and to make sure, 1, that we had it symmetrical, and 2, because it would help us later on when we're building the other buildings in what sections we wanted them in. We almost made it as if they were kind of quadrants. We wanted these quadrants to help us to be able to place things where we needed them. For example, we have things like the police station and the hospital. We wanted all of these kind of things to fit nicely into each section, and actually, which isn't actually shown in the video, which was really upsetting. We must have missed that. But we had a area where we then split those 4 quadrants into 4 quadrants again, so then we had like 4 boxes in one, so that those 4 boxes, one box would be specifically had, or one of those 4 quadrants would be specifically had for one building, because obviously in the video it doesn't look like it, but that area is actually massive. It will look a lot bigger when we're building in the buildings, but kind of we wanted each section to be purely for one building at a time. After splitting the interior into 4 equal sections, we were able then to find the middle. And the middle was very useful for us because we wanted to make a town centre. We didn't want it to be too big, obviously, just kind of like a market area, so to say, just to kind of make it look a little bit more like a village rather than just having the houses everywhere, like that was again last time. And in the original one, I did actually have a market area, not that it was very good, so to say. But to help obviously with this, I decided to stay away from the whole villager approach for now until the village was complete. And we decided to use NPCs as the people in the stands because this way I could actually command them to kind of take transactions, and it would allow me to actually purchase what I wanted, and allow me to specifically ask them what I wanted, and basically would match the stalls rather than me having to keep placing villagers down until I get the one that I need. We also had this town's centre because we had, I believe it was 4 market stands around in the corners, and we had a fountain in the middle. I really wanted to have a fountain. That was what I didn't have last time, and I did want a fountain, but again, being back then, didn't really know how to make one. Didn't really need one. It was the fact you didn't really need one because we had one house, big house for the villagers that literally I think had 2 beds for the 10 villagers that were living there, which is kind of unfortunate. You had the big house and you had the market stalls just scattered everywhere. I wanted one market stall that did kind of everything. Obviously that didn't work out, so I had one market stall for each specific thing in the end, which then made it become quite cluttered. And as well, when you're trying to get to other places, you had to go in between the market stalls and go round them, which I didn't want again this time. So we made a designated market area for the markets, and we didn't add as many as last time because I think I went a bit overboard last time. We then started work on the houses, and I found some designs online that I really liked, but tweaked them in my own little way, obviously. I changed the materials that they used, and I changed kind of the designs of the outside. I wanted it to be quite natural, but also look quite medieval, kind of like, I don't know. As soon as I saw how the castle looked like at the end, obviously I had no idea what the village was going to look like until the castle was built. When the castle was built, it kind of reminded me, I don't know, a little bit medieval. Even though it doesn't look medieval, it's supposed to be quite modern. I wanted to add a little bit of that kind of sense into it. I wanted it to be medieval but modern, which was going to be quite difficult, obviously, so I'd have to use medieval materials, so like wood and things, but also kind of a modern-esque thing. So I added some stone, like different types of stone and stuff. I think we added black stone in one of the houses as well. But we wanted to add those to try and get a medieval but modern look, so it was quite fresh, but also has a bit of an older side to it, which we wanted. We did have an issue though when creating the houses, because how we were originally going to do it, we were going to decorate it inside and out, and then we were just going to use a structure block to copy and paste it all over the place, because building like 10 of these was going to take absolutely ages, and our recording would have gotten really long. So we decided to do that, but in the process of doing that, we copied it perfectly fine, but when we tried to paste it, then our issue came along. We accidentally broke the add-on pack to the fact that I couldn't recover what we'd lost. Luckily, I had a backup saved of the world, so nothing was lost. But we ended up having to change add-ons completely to a different furniture add-on, which isn't that different. It's quite similar, but you'll see that in some of the areas, obviously, the furniture isn't exactly the same as it used to be in the castle. That's because we accidentally broke the add-on pack, and so much so we had a microwave that we couldn't get rid of, and it accidentally ended up, when we were trying to blow it up, like duplicating it and having 3 microwaves that we couldn't get rid of. So we had to give it a that, and we had to completely change the mod pack, because even removing it and adding it back in was just keeping it there, because it wasn't registering it as a block there. It was invisible, we couldn't punch it, we couldn't get rid of it. It wasn't actually there, but the game was registering it was there. So we had to change that, unfortunately, so that's why the furniture looks a little bit different in the houses, and that's why we decided to ultimately structure block it plain without the interior first. After we pasted all the houses in, then we went in with the interior. We actually had 2 designs of the houses to make the village seem a little bit different, but overall the interior was kept the exact same. There was nothing different of the interior at all. The houses were very similar in size and shape. They were just kind of different designs on the outside mainly, so that was basically the only difference. And the inside actually looks really nice. We added some carpets, and we had emerald, part of this new furniture pack. We had emeralds, like placeable emeralds. I fell in love with those and said that we had to add at least one into every house, so you'll see a lot of emeralds in the next few clips and stuff. And we had obviously all of us we had a specific quadrant, I'd say, like a specific corner that we were working in, and had so many houses in. We were just going back and forth, and you'll see me kind of running around as well, just checking that everything is done and we haven't forgotten anything. We knew we wanted paintings and a fridge, obviously, a bed, sofas, everything kind of that a house would normally have. We wanted to give these villagers what I didn't give them 7 years ago. We wanted to give them, I guess, a better lifestyle when we eventually do add them. I'm sure they're going to absolutely love it. finally we built the stairs, and after consulting with the team, we decided to have a spiral staircase, which was in a way a big upgrade from the last one, seeing as the last one kind of went out, around, out, and then down, and the entrance to the village was actually on the side, like on the left hand side. Again, because the village before then was oblong shaped, that's the only place that I could get in a staircase that I hadn't already built into, so that's where it ended up being. And I added just an extra section of gates and stuff to protect them, which is, the gates are likely going to have to happen again if we actually add villagers, because we don't want them obviously walking off and getting injured. They might not leave though, we'll see when the village is built, as it's going to be, again, massive. They might not ever leave the village anyway, and we might be absolutely fine. Obviously there's no villagers for now, so we don't have to worry about that at the minute. But we did have a bit of an issue with the stairs. We couldn't decide how we wanted to have them. I thought that maybe we could have them down along the side like we did last time, but have them in a spiral. But we did decide eventually that going down the side was going to be a little bit difficult, especially because the hill is not flat. It would take a lot of shaping. So we did decide to go down the front, which was fine. I actually ended up really loving these stairs. We went down the front, and then as we got to the edge, started going in a spiral all the way down and had a pathway going into the kind of centre of the village. I ended up really liking these, and the stairs ended up so beautiful with the mod packs as well. We were able to decorate them so nicely. Absolutely love it. Couldn't have asked for a better area. And that's all we did for the village for this time. We wanted then next to add some buildings, but decided that that would be for the next episode, because next episode we will be working on the hospital, which is the first building that we have in store for us to try and fit into this absolutely huge village. And again, I just want to say a massive thank you to ShadyWolf09, WolfHog3000 and hpwolfgirl. Absolutely cannot thank you guys enough for helping me out with this, and I know it's going to be a very big project that's going to take a very long time. I want to say as well, I'm very sorry for the delay on this episode. There's been a lot of things going on at the minute and it's been very difficult to get any videos out at the moment. But I hope this will be the restart into it and getting more frequent videos back out and published again like we used to. But yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!